What up guys, Macro Marciano here, ready to go over the macronutrient carbohydrates. So, first off, want to squash some myths, clear up some things, as well as point out the benefits of of carbohydrates in the diet, and show you guys some great carbohydrate sources and some alternatives that will help you guys reach your goals. So first things, carbohydrates. They are a lot of times blamed for people being obese, being overweight, diabetes, other health issues. But the truth is, being obese, being overweight, that is caused by being in a calorie surplus every day. And if you break down those calories that are putting somebody in a calorie surplus, more than likely they're going to be derived from carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are in everything. And they are, sugar is a carbohydrate, is found in a lot of things. Candy, sodas, pops, that nature. So it's really easy to eat those in consumption, which will overall lead to putting you in a calorie surplus. So, some of the benefits of carbohydrates are, they are our body's energy source. That is what our body uses for energy. Everything from bodily functions to brain functions to exercise and anything external that's physical requires energy, which our body likes. Is main energy source is carbohydrates. Another great thing, carbohydrates are muscle and protein sparing, meaning that if you have carbohydrates in the body, that is what the body's going to go to first for energy, rather than breaking into your muscle or your protein to use as energy. So you will maintain and retain most of the hard-earned muscle that you have. Last thing is, it helps maintain your blood sugar. So by having carbohydrates throughout the day, you're going to maintain a steady blood sugar, so you'll feel normal, have energy, and not going through these random spikes here and there. So hopefully that cleared up some things, squashed some of the myths. Carbohydrates are not bad, sugars are not bad, which I will go over at the end of this video, and pointed out some of the highlights of carbohydrates. So, now let's go into some carbohydrate sources and help give you guys some tips to help you guys reach your goals. So first off, all these are carbohydrates. Yes, all these. We got our fruits, we got our veggies, we got ice creams, we got our chips, cereals, rice cakes, rice, our breads, tortillas. I even consider these condiments in the carbohydrate category, because they're mainly derived from carbohydrates. So, when it comes to carbohydrate sources, you got to keep in mind that everything has different amounts. So, fruits, for example, they typically can be pointed as to be healthy, but they are higher in carbohydrates. So, if you have a lower carbohydrate intake at the moment, you're going to probably want to watch it on the fruit, or if fruit is your thing. If you love fruits, learn how to incorporate it in. So, for example, one banana has about 25 grams of carbs. That is the same as this whole bag of broccoli. So that means for one banana, you could eat this whole bag of broccoli. So that comes down to you and your goals. Would you rather eat a full bag of broccoli, or would you rather just have one banana? Now, going to ice creams. Yes, ice creams. You might think ice creams are bad, but again, they're a carbohydrate source. They also can be considered a fat source depending on which ice cream you get. So which is what I wanted to go over. These two ice creams, identical, right? Same container, same flavor, but this top one has 11 grams of fat. This bottom one has 0. It is a 0 fat ice cream. Now, each of those have about 20-25 grams of carbs per serving. Again, that is the same as one banana. Keep in mind, a serving of ice cream is not very big, but another alternative you could do is they have even lower calorie option ice creams, where these only have 12. This one only has 7 grams per serving. So you could basically eat 2 servings of this compared to 1 serving of that. That is where you have to make that decision and find the carbohydrate source of ice cream that helps you reach your goals. Another thing I'd like to point out, potato chips. Again, they can be deemed as bad because they do have a higher fat intake, and they do have carbohydrates, and they're quite easy to eat a good amount of. But by switching to a lower calorie option that only has 3.5 grams of fat compared to 11 grams of fat, you're going to be able to fit this in a little bit easier with your fats if they are lower. Another thing I'd like to point out, cereals, right? You first look at this and you would think this is healthy. Fruit and nut, granola, that's healthy, right? Well, if you look at the macronutrients, per serving there's 9 grams of fat, 44 grams of carbs, 6 protein. Now, compared to Lucky Charms, most would say that is a healthier option. But if you look at the macronutrient breakdown, this only has 1 gram of fat per serving, 22 grams of carbs, and 2 grams of protein. So, when it comes to a macronutrient base, the Lucky Charms are going to be a better option. So this is where you don't need to pay attention so much what is on the front cover, but taking a look at the nutritional labels. That is where I challenge you guys to take a look at the labels and see what carbohydrate sources are going to help you reach your goals, as well as what carbohydrates you would like to incorporate into your diet. So again, with some rice. Rice is deemed to be healthy, you know. Most people think rice is healthy. But keep in mind, this whole packet has 80 grams of carbohydrates. 80 grams. So that means you literally could have 3.5 bags of this broccoli to equal this. So that is where that choice comes down to you, of either fitting in the rice or choosing to a more carbohydrate source that is not as carb dense, a little bit easier to fit in. Breads. Same thing, nothing wrong with breads. But again, some people say breads are bad. They cause, to gain weight. It's not true. Take the look at the macronutrient breakdown. Per slice, this only has 9 grams of carbs. That isn't bad at all. There are some slices of breads out there that I've seen have up to 20 grams per slice. So again, this is where I challenge you. Take a look at your nutritional label and see what breads or whatever item it might be that is going to help you reach your goals. Tortillas. Same thing. Typical tortilla has about 3 to 4 grams of fat, anywhere from 25 to 30 grams of carbs. Now, if you make just a slight alternative change to a lower calorie tortilla, this only has 3 fat, 7 carbs. So that means you could literally eat almost 3 of these and be equal to 1 carb of this. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have this, but if you want to fit it in, know that you have to account for the carbohydrates. And if you're on lower carbohydrates, this might be the better option for you. Last thing I'd like to touch on are condiments. Yes, condiments, there are a lot of hidden carbs in here. So, for example, barbecue sauce. 1 serving, which is 2 tablespoons, not very big, has 17 grams of carbs. 17 grams. That's basically like eating this here orange. But what you can do is opt for a sugar-free option, not because sugar-free is bad, not because sugar is bad, but because it's gonna have a lower carbs in it. This only has 2 grams of carbs per serving, so you could almost eat half of this container, and it'd be similar to 1 serving of regular barbecue sauce. Ketchup. If you're like me, I love ketchup on everything. For 1 serving of ketchup, that is 5 grams of carbs, which again is 2 tablespoons, which is not very much. And I use quite a bit more than 2 tablespoons. So, another great alternative you can make is to go to a reduced sugar. Again, not because sugar is bad, because it's going to have an overall lower carb intake. This only has 1 gram of carb per serving, so you could eat 5 servings of this and equal 1 serving of regular ketchup. Another great thing I'd like to touch on is syrups. They are very, very calorie dense, carb dense. 1 regular syrup, 1 serving, has 52 grams of carbs. That is like eating 2 bananas. So, by switching to a sugar-free version, you're going to save yourself significantly. With only 5 grams of carbs per serving, that is a huge saving. So again, I challenge you guys to look at the nutritional label of your condiments, and maybe that's where you need to cut out in order to fit in more, or if you choose to back off on your condiments so you can fit in some of that ice cream. So that is how you begin to learn to balance things out, see where you need to take away some carbs to fit in what you want to fit in, and that is going to make your diet enjoyable. Now, the last thing I would like to touch on is sugar. Sugar has always again, been pointed to be the reason for obesity, reason for diabetes, reason for all these different health problems. Sugar is basically another carbohydrate. You can look at it as another carbohydrate for the fact being that yes, sugar does digest a little bit faster and it will spike your blood glucose level. But when you eat carbohydrates, all carbohydrates, with other macronutrients, meaning proteins and fats, they are all digested the same. Yes, so that means ice cream, if I were to have eaten it with some chicken, is going to digest the same if I ate it with broccoli. So that is how come you can throw the glycemic index, don't worry about sugar being the enemy, and just enjoy the food you love. By having a higher protein intake, you're going to incorporate proteins with just about every meal. So you cannot worry so much about what kind of carbs it is, but more choose the carbs that you want to enjoy. But still, I highly recommend incorporating your fruits and veggies to get your micronutrients through your diet. So, that is my take on carbohydrates. I hope that explained some things to you. Hopefully that cleared some things up, squashed some myths, allows you to have a little bit better insight, explain the highlights and the benefits of it. Carbohydrates are not the enemy. Sugar is not the enemy. When consumed with other macronutrients, it is all digested basically the same. As well as, again, I challenge you to look at your nutritional labels, find out what sources, what carb sources you like that are going to best help you reach your goals. And you might have to make an alternative change from going to a lower calorie option, but I would rather you still fit in a tortilla rather than say, I can't fit it in, that is bad, no I can't, and make you crave a tortilla. Same thing going back to ice cream. If you can't fit in a regular one, there are plenty of options today to help you fit in one for your goals. So, hope this helped, hope this was informative, and this is Macro Marciano's take on carbohydrates.